Dustin Bellinger. First, my man, I want to say that I am extremely sorry to hear about your dad. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I've experienced loss in my life. It's not cool. And, yeah, especially when it has to do with, close immediate family is never a easy thing. Driving in my car, I actually just watched your video. I have a pretty long drive into work on Monday mornings, and I watched your video and I just couldn't wait. I enjoyed the story that you told, the multiple stories that you told of your dad, the IKEA part and having that on film, and hearing the comical content that would be on display if you would have been able to get him on video putting some furniture together. And the thing that really touched me was how once a week you said you talked to your dad, and it was usually after a sporting event, mainly Saturday. The Cornhuskers and college football was your dad's thing. And the reason I find that to be, that why it hits so close to home for me is that I pretty much do the same thing with my dad. He's not a college football guy at all, but he is a huge, diehard Boston Bruins fan. He's still a Giants fan, New York Giants fan, but he just doesn't like the antics of today's NFL. So he definitely watches, he definitely follows it, but he's definitely taking more of a backseat approach to the game, and he just and he's really taken off with the Bruins. He's the big reason. Nothing to do with cards for me. He listens to me. I mean, when I pick up, especially my LTs, when I pick up, LT cards, he is, he's one of the first ones that send, a pic to saying, hey, check this out. Harry Carson, any of the old, old school 80s and in the early 90s players, were his favorite. Mainly the 80s, your Bavaros, your Harry Carsons, Lawrence Taylors. He loved his Otis Anderson, the 80s team. Anyways, but now we tend to do the same thing. About once a week, I'll give him a buzz, and it's mainly sports. I clue him in on everything else. I even clue him in on college football, what's going on there, the Red Sox. I clue him in on what's going on with that. Hockey, he doesn't need any help being clued in, and not with football. So we can just chit chat that. But it was funny because you said a short conversation would be about an hour, and that's the same with me and my dad. Usually, it can go on, 90 minutes, 2 hours for sure is what our normal, typical, once a week conversation will go for. Sometimes it can be a little difficult because he lives on the East Coast, so he's got that 3-hour swing. He gets up extremely early for work. I think he's up probably 4:30 in the morning, and so I got to kind of catch him. I pretty much try to get him right when I get off of work and I'm headed to the house. I'll give him a buzz, and but it was awesome listening to your video. And like I said, I mean, it just sucks. And to listen to what you said your dad had that he always wanted to be a farmer, own his own farm, and his dad, that's what he did, but he passed away when your father was in college, so he never really got that opportunity to start, but ended up getting it. It was the whole video was just awesome to listen to. I thought, just a great, beautiful story, and I really enjoyed it. And you wanted to hear impactful thing about your father on you, and mine is one thing, and it boils down to one thing, and that's when I was 18 years old, and I came into my senior year. I played sports, so I always had the grades. I maintained an academic grade good enough to play sports, and that was it. I mean, I put in the bare minimal, and shame on me now, but hey, it's all good. But what I didn't do my senior year was go to school enough, and you're only allowed to miss like 21 or 22 days, something like that, without having doctor's notes and stuff. So somehow I slipped through, and it came to the end of the school year, and my dean pulled me in his office and was like, "Hey, you don't have enough days." I said, "Okay, no problem. I'll get you some notes." And he's like, "No, Greg, you don't understand. It's too late for that." I mean, we were walking across the stage in like 3 or 4 days for our diplomas, and so of course I tried. Okay, well, hey, just hand me a blank one. Let me walk across my class. I'll sign whatever I need to sign now, and I'll take your. I'll go to night school, or summer school. Do whatever I got to do to graduate. And he was like, "No, you don't understand. You lost all your credits. Your whole senior year is like you didn't even attend." And so I was like, "All right." So I went home, and told my dad what had happened. And he's like, "Okay, well, what do what's your plan?" And I said, "I'll just go to school next year. I'll go back next year." And basically he looked at me and said, No, you won't. Because you didn't do it this year. Once I hit middle school, I never took school serious. And he goes, "And what makes you think you're going to go back your senior year and do this?" I have 3 younger siblings. I have 2 sisters and a brother, all younger. They were obviously in school. My brother was a freshman, sophomore, and my sisters were both down in middle school. So I mean, I wasn't setting a good example for them at all. Wasn't anyone they could look up to. Wasn't any kind of role model. And so my dad basically said, "Hey, either get your shit and get out, or you can join the military." And I was like, "Well, okay, well then I'm gonna leave." And so I called around to a couple buddies, asked them, "Hey, let me crash at your place for a little bit. My dad's a prick and he's kicking me out." And so my buddies were like, "Dude, like my parents aren't just gonna let you stay here and do nothing. Like, what do you mean?" So basically those options were gone, and so into the military I went. And I mean, my senior year I was talking to the military and leaving that as an option. It was my last option, but it was an option. So I ended up going into the Army, and it ended up turning out to be the best thing my dad ever did. I mean, I don't like saying he forced me into the military, because he didn't. I mean, he gave me options. But essentially, that's why I went into the military, and it was the best thing that had ever happened to me. I mean, it is really the reason why and who I am today. And I actually raised my hand and swore in to the Army September 10th, 2001. And then obviously I went to sleep. I was leaving for once I raised my hand and swore in. It was obviously a process leading up to that. But once I raised my hand and swore in September 10th, 2001, I was leaving for basic like 4 days later. So obviously, that night I went home, went to sleep, and was woken up by my dad, and I was not happy about it. I said, shit, Dad, you got me in the military. We got frickin' 3 days. Let me sleep late. And obviously everyone knows what happened September 11th, that morning. So I never talked with him about it. I obviously went off and went overseas and fought in the war in Iraq. And, I never spoke to my dad about it till after. And I couldn't imagine what he was possibly, carrying with himself. But once I re-enlisted and I came home from that tour, I told him, I said, hey, it would have been shame on you if you would have carried anything, if anything would have ever happened to me. I said, I loved, it was the best thing he ever did to me. It was the best thing I had ever done up at that point, was joining the military, and I loved it. I mean, I re-enlisted. So once the re-enlistment happens, now it's on me. It's, that first 3 years that I originally signed up for was done and over. So he can't carry the burden anymore if something would have happened to me. But here I am, blabbering on now, and I totally understand if someone doesn't want to watch the full video. But Dustin, man, like I said, dude, I couldn't imagine. My father is a massive part of my life, even though he lives on the whole other side of the country. We still talk a couple times a week, but always at least once a week for a good amount of time, and it's always sports. And and I love him for it. And yeah, great giveaway. Response that you're asking for. And thanks, man. And thanks for the story that you shared, because that was, I think the video was like 18 minutes long, and man, it was one of the more enjoyable 18-minute videos that I have watched in a while. And I've actually been lacking on watching videos of late, but I wasn't gonna miss that one, and I'm glad I watched it. And yeah, man, I mean, I know you got the support. I'm here. You ever want to talk BS? I'd be more than happy to. Call me up, and I'll bullshit with you. So thank you very much. Hope I didn't bore you to death. And once again, thanks for the opportunity for your giveaway. And I'm actually looking forward to hearing a lot of other people's videos, response videos. So that's it. Hope you enjoy it. And until next time, peace.